Well, I never thought this would pan out, but Jordan and I reconvened and we decided to record together for the first time since 2016. The only problem is that we really didn't have a topic to cover except, beer, planes, and models. Okay, well, maybe that's not so bad. Before we get started, I wanted to let you all know that I've got a Discord up and running. And in addition, my very own Patreon is ready too. Do you want your name at the end of my history videos? Do you want access to a few top secret chats in the Discord? Do you want to see additional art content? Well, head on over to the Patreon and get yourself signed up via the link in the description. And one more thing, guys. Keep that sun at your back. Alright, hey everyone, this is Falcon, and I never expected I'd be doing this again, but me and Jordan reconvened, and we're going to record another podcast.
Hello. We don't have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but yeah, I guess we're just going to be catching up. There's going to be a lot of editing that has to do because I'm on my third beer now, and hopefully this isn't disclosure. I'm just kidding. We're chilling.
Oh, you don't drink any alcohol, Jordan. Let's be real. Neither of us drink alcohol ever. I mean, let's be real.
What, do you wince your way through a PBR?
Dude, PBR is not that bad, actually. I kind of like it.
My drink of choice is Yuengling. If I have to drink something in public.
Man, Yingers are the beer of choice for me.
Yeah.
You know what really sucks, though, is that when you go back to the West Coast, you won't be able to get Yingers.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. But when I'm on the West Coast, I always go for a Firestone Walker, an 805. Because San Luis Obispo. Yeah, so they're called 805 because that's the area code of San Luis Obispo, Paso Robles, where the Estrella Warbird Museum was. And there's a brewery right there that you'd pass every time you went to SLO from the Bay. But yeah, so it's kind of like a local beer to us college students that went there.
When I was out in the Bay Area, Dos Equis was always my beer of choice, because it was just kind of the closest thing I could find to Yuengling, because it does taste like Yuengling, especially their lager, but I never got a chance to try 805. I tried, I forget the name of it. It was a brewery out of a hangar down in, LA.
Huh.
And
interesting.
I think it was Hangar 21 or something. But the dude, owned an airplane hangar, and he just turned it into a brewery when he was doing off time on his Cessna or whatever. And he actually got so popular that he started a beer fest, but it was also at the airfield. So they turned it into an air show. So you would go and watch planes while drinking beer and stuff. It was the best thing ever. I went there in 2016 with a coworker, and we saw the Viper demo team do a thing while we were 6 beers deep. It was great.
Yeah, it's called Hangar 24 Craft Brewery.
Yes,
Hangar 20. Yeah,
24.
Hangar 20.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm looking at it now. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So
in the
strong
north
recommendation.
Yeah, in the North Bay we have, or sorry, not North Bay. Fuck. In NorCal, there's the Garrett Farms, which was started by a guy named George Cooper, who was a test pilot at NASA Ames.
Oh, really?
And Garrett Farms has these blends. That they name after airplanes. So there's and they're called the test pilot blends. I'll link you real quick. But so there's the P61, there's the F104, F70 Cutlass.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So and they're always, and he gives a little story of what it was like to fly these airplanes. There's some story he has about this airplane when he was test flying it at Moffett. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, next time I go out to California, I'm gonna have to try some of these.
Next time we go out to California, because we both don't live there anymore.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're down in Florida, right? Down in
yep,
Pensacola, just working.
No, I'm not Pensacola. That's closer to the Panhandle. I'm actually I live in a place called St. Augustine.
Okay.
It's so you know how they say Florida's America's penis?
Yeah.
I live on the pubic bone.
Oh, okay. I know exactly where that is then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So St. Augustine's where the Hawkeyes are made, where Grumman makes Hawkeyes.
Oh, okay.
And in the 90s, when they were re-winging all the intruders, they were also built at Grumman in St. Augustine. So it was the depot for Grumman stuff, Tomcats, intruders, trackers, all that fun stuff. There's actually a artificial reef offshore in St. Augustine called Intruder Reef.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because when they got rid of all those A6s, they dumped them over the water.
Sad.
Yeah. Have you heard the story? Well, actually, so one of my coworkers, I guess he flew intruders. He commanded 2 shuttle missions. His name's George Zamka. You can look him up. Call sign Zambo. Okay. He was telling us one day that when the Navy retired the it was all political. When they got rid of the intruders.
Oh yeah.
Like it was part of Dick Cheney's like war against Grumman.
Yeah, I mean, even back in the 90s, he had like a thing against him. Like he was really for the Hornet. You know, he was kind of like a modern day Robert McNamara when it comes to planes.
Oh, absolutely, and it was especially bad because so the intruder directly threatened Navy procurement, Nav-Air procurement, because it, especially with the re-winging of them, and I think he even got like 2 additional stores per wing, which would increase its bomb load, which was already pretty crazy. And he was like, yeah, and 10 years later we found ourselves in a war needing an airplane that could carry like fucking 20 JDAMs and have a loiter time of like 8 hours.
You know what I mean? Like if we had him in the GWAT, that would have been
if we had intruders in the GWAT, we wouldn't have flown anything else.
Yeah.
Like I think that's kind of indisputable.
A6Fs, man.
Yeah.
They almost happened. Like Grumman had the prototype. I mean, it was a great concept actually. You know, being able to, it had an extra pylon and all the upgrades you were talking about. So
yeah.
It didn't have like non-afterburning GE 404s.
Are you serious? That's badass.
I'm not sure though. I gotta look that up. But
I don't know.
It had an engine upgrade. Hold on, let me see.
That's crazy. I don't know. I'm a big A6 stan. Like
same.
Like as you get older, like as a child, well, okay, actually that's not true. I was always an A6 stan. Like I think my childhood Motor Max Nimitz carrier came with an A6. No, I take that back. It came with an EA6A.
That's a very interesting differentiation to make with a toy.
Yeah. Some of your viewers will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. In the late 90s, early 2000s, there was that like Motor Max USS Nimitz that was like 2.5, 3 feet long, and it came with like an E2C, an F-14, an F-18, an EA6A, a Viking, and an MH-60.
Yep.
Did you have the same one? All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So did you also cut the dish off the Hawkeye to make it into a COD?
No, I did not, because I knew it was an E2. I knew it was an E2B with the round nose.
I didn't, because I didn't give a shit. So I cut it off, but I did it in such a way that I could still reattach the dish to make it an E2.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you like magnetize it or something?
No, because the plastic bit, like the dish was held on by 2 plastic bits, so I cut off only like one of them, and then I snipped the. Basically, I snipped it in a way that one of the plastic bits just became a peg that I could like stick it into the airplane with. So like it wouldn't stay on, but it would like not fall off. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Huh, that's pretty clever. You were an engineer from the beginning, dude.
Yeah, something like that. But there was that, and I remember the intruder. It was an EA6A. Because it wasn't called a Prowler on the bottom.
I still have it somewhere. I'll have to dig it out.
The new ones, like that mold still exists, but the canopy is no longer clear. So like here, check this photo out. So like see how?
Oh,
so
wow,
it's the same one, but the canopy is painted over. But notice how it's a 2C canopy and it has the
you're right. It does have the fucked up or the rate up on the tail. Yeah. Or the jammer pod.
Yeah, so
that specifically is an A. Wow.
Yep.
I'll put that in the video. Also, yes, the A6F was intended to have non-afterburning 404s.
Badass.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Oh yeah.
Like it literally would have been like a non-stealthy A12.
I mean, really, that's yeah. I mean, Look at what they took from us.
Yeah, well, I mean, the A12 is kind of what killed the intruder originally, because it was like supposed to happen, and then they were like, well, sorry. But then all the funding had already been like allocated to it, so
right. And they never did it in the end, and it's sad.
Man, Dick Cheney did Grum and Dirty.
I mean, I think it's really funny how everything that man does, you can assume he had malicious intent.
Yeah, especially when you go hunting with him.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy. Like, it's very rare that, you know, I mean, I guess there's Adolf Hitler, but like there's like very few people that unanimously the entire world, regardless of their alignments, like, you know, of what they believe, can agree was like a bad person, and Dick Cheney is one of them.
Like, I won't say that the Tomcat needed to be retired, but like, I don't know, man. Like, killing the Tomcat was just.
Well, I mean, something. No, well, okay. So you know how the F-14D is a newer airframe than the Strike Eagle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, absolutely, I would say that it wasn't the right time to retire them. That would be like, you know.
This is gonna be a redacted like version of this podcast. It's gonna be released in like 2050 when we're both in like hospice.
Maybe we'll finally live close to each other when we're in hospice.
Yeah, we'll be like the bed over and be like, hey, we should put that fucking video out.
Dude. Very last thing you do as you die, you're like trying to like walk a 20-year-old in the year 2050 how to use your like computer. And, like, she thinks that you're, like, a boomer, like an old dying boomer, because, like, their computers are, like, brain activated at that point, and we're still, like trying to get people to use a mouse and keyboard.
Dude, it'd be like the equivalent of releasing something on fucking tape.
Yeah. Yeah, can you imagine how clunky an MP3 file is going to be in the year 2050?
Oh my god, I can only imagine.
Like, goddamn, dude. Like, eventually, we're going to get into a point where DCS looks like Pong.
Yeah. I mean, we're literally just going to be able to, like, jack our brains into a computer and just be inside of a fighter plane and feel G-forces.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, and I always kind of imagine, like, the way that he talks to me about my job versus his job, I'm like, dude, DCS is just your Ready Player One, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Like, it's a game. I never... Like, people are like, oh, it's more than a game. It's like, no, it's just a fucking video game that has, a lot of realistic switches. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's so funny because of how much people get into it, and it's like, all right, like, like, DCS as a form of escapism, like, I understand.
You've seen my cockpit, right?
Yeah, I've seen your cockpit.
Okay.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've put way too much money into it and stuff, but, like, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just like...
Okay, do you spend more time in your DCS cockpit than you do in your car, though? Oh, okay, never mind then. Because I was going to make an argument, like, if you're sitting in it, like, if your hours you spend in the cockpit playing Sims, like, rival that of your commute to work, you know, then you're technically in that space enough to justify spending a lot of money in it. Does that make sense?
I'm in it enough to justify it. Like,
yeah.
I get a lot of use out of it, at least, like, once or twice a week. So, like, you know, that's fine.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's a good learning tool, not for how planes maneuver, but, like, it's a good procedures thing, and it's good for, like, you know...
Yeah.
Actually, that's pretty much it. It's good for a procedures trainer, and that's about it.
It's a fantastic procedures trainer. Like, a really, really, really good procedures trainer, and I will not extrapolate.
I mean, the Air Force uses the A-10 sim. That's not classified. That's, like, on the internet. Like,
okay.
Yeah. You just paused. You were like, should you know that?
But we use the, so, like, we've used the the F5 sim before.
Okay.
As a, hang on. I'm trying to, like, wrap my head around how I'm going to tell this story.
Okay, first off, folks, I'm not going to tell you where Jordan actually works now, just for his sake.
Yeah, so there was a time when, I guess it was like a weekend, and there were dudes in the shop pulling overtime, and they needed to start an aircraft. And I guess they were like the pilots were not there yet. Like they were, I guess the pilots were off, and this is back when the company was still based at the old airport where they did things a little bit differently and didn't need to follow Navy procedures as much. So like when the pilot got to the airport, the plane had already they already done their like starts. They were like, "Hey, how'd you guys figure it out?" And he looked at the iPad, and it was like the DCS startup tutorial for that aircraft was like on the screen. And I guess the ground crews had like the techs were able to use that to figure it out.
That's really impressive, actually.
Yeah. So, like, and you know the Legacy Hornet I heard is really really good. One of my coworkers, he was an AET on Legacy Hornets, and he knew how to start the thing. Like he would have to actually start it as part of his job, and he said it's like 95%, like 85 to 95% like close. Because like
wow.
The first time he tried it on DCS, like didn't look at anything, just went straight from his muscle memory. You know, muscle memory like transferring over to mouse clicking, like left mouse click. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know. But, like, as long as you know where the switches are and everything, and you know where to click, like, you know, you'll probably pick it up, I imagine, right?
Oh, for sure.
Dude, that's really cool. Some people I know use, like, trackball mice and just, like, keep it slapped down to the side of their, like the right side of the virtual cockpit or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And they just reach down, use the trackball, look around, and do that. But there's also, like... It also has compatibility for VR controllers, so you can like reach out and flip switches and shit, which is kind of neat. I haven't tried it yet, but
that's badass.
Yeah,
I want to see someone integrate a ThinkPad clitoris into their virtual cockpit. Like I don't know, I'm sure it's not gonna work, but I just want to see it. I just want to see a ThinkPad clitoris.
I don't know why it wouldn't work, though, because you can use pretty much any controller in DCS.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I might try it. I don't know. Stay tuned, folks.
Yeah, we... So... Our F... basically uses a... Oh, shit. Fuck!
I'll just, like, you'll get to that, and I'll just bleep out, like, the entire segment of it.
Okay, so let's decide... Okay, so, like, first, I think we should lay out some, like, ground rules on what we're not going to disclose. I'm not going to disclose where I work on the podcast. If somebody wants... Like, it's not hard to figure it out, you know, if you look on my Twitter or anything, but I just...
If you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So that... And, like, I'm not going to talk about anything that goes on on the podcast. Okay. So the inference is if I'm talking about aircraft or flight operations, it's going to be about F5s.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. But like, oh god, it's so. What's annoying is that like. Once I mention F5s, you'll know where I work. Because we're the only company that flies them.
I mean, we really don't need to talk about the F.
But you know, like, yeah, I think like eventually I'll be more open to discussing it.
Sure.
But I think just as we're kind of like easing into things,
when it's not like job endangering.
Yeah, it's not super job endangering now, but there's like shit.
I mean, it's not like just saying where you work at and like the plane you operate is classified or anything.
No, it's not.
It's better. Yeah. It's better just to not go into it. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like it's the like certain systems, you know, and stuff are just like what I'm like like certain systems and how things are arranged, you know, are more what's not cool. I think if it's like in terms of its capabilities, like I can talk about what's publicly available.
I'm gonna bleep so much of this out, and people are gonna think you're working on the fucking NGAD or something. I'm gonna leave that part in.
I'm gonna. You're about to bleep this out because what people don't realize is...
That makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like the VFX.
Oh, it's even more abstract than that.
Okay. I mean, I know what the fucking thing looks like. Oh. That's gonna be bleak. I'm gonna cut this whole fucking part out.
This is what disclosure looks like, folks. Alright, next up, we're gonna talk about the UFO shot down over Lake Huron.
Oh, you mean the weather balloon, or the hobbyist balloon?
Yeah, totally hobbyist balloons, right?
Oh yeah, totally, all of them.
All of them. And yeah, no, absolutely. That's the reason why we're not disclosing the footage is because we're embarrassed. That's totally why. We're embarrassed, folks.
Oh, absolutely. And it totally only happened at feet,
Yeah. AIM-9X. Yeah. So what if it? Of course, it could have. AIM-9X from a Viper could have missed something. You don't know that. Like they missed a fitter with an AIM-9X. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, right. the thing about the AIM-9X, or the fact that they use AIM-9s to kill the balloon makes a lot of sense versus the gun, because everybody's like, oh, would it save a lot of money if they just use the gun? It's like, well, okay, first off, putting a lot of little holes into a balloon isn't necessarily going to kill it immediately.
Not everyone passed physics.
Yeah, you're right, my bad. I have a lot of things to say about the gun. Actually, I made a whole video about it. Check the comments.
Yeah, how dare you speak ill of the M61 rotary cannon. This is a Pontiac M39 household. I'm just kidding. Revolver autocannons are also kind of memey, if I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, all air cannons are kind of memey.
Yeah. Remember how our last podcast was about the Super Crusader?
Yeah.
Remember how you know what we can talk about? We can talk about how we got kicked out of a Chinese buffet in San Diego after the Miramar Air Show.
We did, didn't we?
We sure did.
Okay, you remember it a little bit better than I do, but I don't remember getting kicked out, per se.
Okay, we weren't kicked out. We were politely asked if we were done eating.
yeah, that's fair. We were getting a little rowdy.
We were getting a little rowdy, and we were sober, which was hilarious.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, shit. I was comparing using a fork to eat soup as opposed to using a spoon.
Yes. And it was referencing using the F-4 Phantom to do pretty much everything we did in Vietnam.
Yeah, as opposed to the other specialized aircraft that we had on and off carrier decks. So disclaimer: since then, I've come around on my opinion on the F-4. I think at the time I was immature and stupid, and I saw myself as I needed to defend the honor of the FA Crusader. And so as what replaced the F8 wholesale on carriers, I felt like the F4 had to be shat on. And so I said things that I said that I no longer believe. I think, dude, this is growth. This is actual growth, guys. You don't understand. I had a vehement dislike for the Phantom for a long time, to the point where I was it's gross, it's ugly, and I would go out of my way to shit on it. But I respect it. It did a lot, did what it wasn't even meant to do, and soldiered on for a lot longer than it should have or could have. And I'm gonna be really sad when the last Phantoms in Greece and Turkey are done flying, and Iran for that matter. But
South Korea still has them.
Yeah, pouring out for the Phantom.
I will say the Phantom is really fucking impressive for what it did.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. So one of my mentor at TAC Air, yeah, he used to work for McDonnell Douglas, and before that he used to work at Douglas in Long Beach. So that's how long he's been in the industry.
Oh, he's been around, okay.
But he he was a backseater in F4s in the Missouri Air National Guard, and he had a out of envelope ejection from an F4E at Lambert Field. I think in 1990.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so as the story goes, it was a weekend. It was a Saturday or Sunday or something, and he wasn't supposed to be flying that day, but he was filling in for someone else. He wasn't an instructor WSO, but he was pretty squared away. So there was a Nugget pilot flying, and they asked if he could you know, be his Wizzo. He was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I like flying airplanes.
Yeah.
So he goes up with this guy. And, so they were, what's the loadout? It was, fuel bag, Catum 9 mic, and 3 BDU 33s, and then fuel bag, another 3 BDU 33s, and on the outer wing, like another bag of fuel, and all the rounds of the cannon.
Dude.
Yeah. No, this guy is sharp as a whip. So,
good.
As an aside, so his career, so he went from Douglas to McDonnell Douglas, right? And at McDonnell Douglas, he worked on the Strike Eagle, the C-17, and the Night Attack Hornet.
Oh, wow.
And his last project at McDonnell Douglas was the YF-23, because remember, that was the McDonnell Douglas Northrop product.
Yeah.
When the Air Force selected the F-22 to build, and he always says that, he always says, we didn't lose, the Air Force elected to build the YF-22. When they did that, they hired, like, I think like a handful of people from Northrop, and they had Lockheed hire that cadre of guys to go, and guys and girls, to go to the F-22. Because, and this is unclassified at this point, but what the YF-23 had over the F-22 was open systems architecture. And that's something that, like, you know, everyone always is like, oh, it's stealthier, it's faster, you know? Both of which are true. But the real nail in the coffin that it had over the Raptor was that it had open systems architecture, and this was, like, at a time when nothing did. So
I mean, it'd be, like, even easier to upgrade now.
Right, exactly. You know, so they, yeah, like, let's talk about how long it took for the F-22A to get A-X, and that's, like, after these guys are brought on board, right?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so he worked on the F-22 at Lockheed, and then he's touched, like, basically a ton of black projects at Lockheed, and also, like, C-130J. And then he flew AFSOC Hercules, like he was a navigator in AFSOC Hercs, and other stuff, AFSOC related, out of Hurlburt Field, until, like, relatively recently. Like, by that I mean, like, in the past 10 years. So yeah, this guy's name is, or he retired as Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Greeley.
Okay.
And you can look him up. You know, he has a page on Martin Baker's website from when he ejected out of an F-4.
Oh, does he have the tie and everything?
Sorry?
Does he have the Martin Baker tie? Yeah.
He's got the tie, and they gave him permission to buy the watch. They don't actually give you the watch, but you're not allowed to buy the watch unless you ejected.
Yeah.
But you
it's
get
like a licensing thing.
You get the tie. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, on this morning in Lambert Field, they're taking off. And so the F-4 has, like, a shit ton of gas. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head because I never flew it. It's got a shit ton of gas. And typically, they, like, idle, just, like, by the idling and by, like, the taxiing, they burn enough of that off to be a safe takeoff weight.
Mm-hmm.
But on this morning, there was a TWA, like, DC-9 that was like, oh, go ahead, let the F-4s cut us in line, you know, we'll enjoy the show.
Sure.
So these two F-4s, so Kevin and his pilot and the number one airplane in their flight, went ahead and cut ahead on the runway. And when they accelerated and they started their takeoff roll, he knew something was wrong.
Uh-oh.
And to this day, he's like, I should have just went, like, you know, throttles idle, you know, like you know, abort the takeoff, but I was young and dumb, and, you know, that wasn't how it went. So because of the weight, all the excess weight on the Phantom on this morning, the first jet was actually able to get off the ground, but they noticed that he started to, like, his nose was, like, kind of swinging side to side. So in order to avoid that, the pilot applied some rudder, like some pedal, and the airplane as a result swung over and, like, veered off of the runway.
Oh, Jesus.
And airplanes are not good cars. You know,
Not
so what people don't realize is that like the runway is not like paved ground that's level with the ground around it. You know, it's like the curb, like the separation between the edge of the runway and like the dirt that's next to it is like a curb. It's like a solid, you know, like dirt, right?
Yeah.
So gear digs into the ground, and the airplane goes skidding, you know, through, and nose gear collapses. You know, everything is like going kind of crazy, and they're obviously on fire. Like, you know, shit's happening, stuff isn't going well. Airplane's like fucked up at this point.
So they're like on the ground when they punched out.
Like no, well, they didn't punch out. It was out of envelope and uncontrolled, because as the nose gear collapsed, the nose gear is a stronger piece of metal than the bottom of the cockpit floor.
Oh shit!
So it punctured through. It landed with such an impact that it punctured through the bottom of his cockpit floor and hit his ejection seat and triggered the ejection.
Oh Jesus Christ! I've never heard of that shit happening.
Yeah, so it triggered the ejection, and it wasn't like a 0-0 seat, you know. So like ejection threw him out of the airplane. The chute didn't even deploy.
Oh my god!
Because like he was like flying, yeah, and he was like, yeah. So like at the time, you know, he was in the National Guard. So for his day job, he was still working at McDonald's, and he was like time slowed down like a crazy amount. Because like I saw like how did he tell the story? It was great. He saw his office window where his cubicle was, and like at that moment, all he could think about was all the work he still had to do.
Oh fuck, dude!
And like he saw Strike Eagle #1 like sitting outside of the McDonnell Douglas hangar. And like on the opposite end of the runway, he saw like a DC-9 taking off. And he was like, "Wow, like these are like the perfect bookends of my career, right?" Because like one of the first things he worked at McDonnell Douglas was the DC-9. And at that point, the last thing he was working on was the Strike Eagle. And then he was like, "Yeah, you know." So I reach up to pull the D ring on my reserve chute, and the ring comes off in my hand.
Oh my god, dude! Jesus
and he was
Christ.
like, well, you know, there it is. And when he impacted on the ground, like thrown out of the airplane, impacted on the ground, he woke up and was staring directly at his boot, and he knew that his foot was still in his boot.
Oh fuck!
Yeah, it was bad.
Jesus Christ!
And the pilot like runs over. There's rounds like cooking off in the gun. The airplane's on fire, and he's like, "Kevin, you're fucked up."
Yeah, no shit. Oh my god.
Yeah. But, you know, like, now, like, he recovered, you know, went through a fuck ton of physical therapy, never became a pilot.
Right.
But he got cleared, like, medically cleared again to fly, and retired from the Air Force as a nav on Airstock Hercules. So, like,
shit, dude.
Still had a pretty badass career. We still,
we still like, even lived.
Yeah, no, we still talk, like, on the regular. And like one time I sent him a photo when I was at the Edwards Air Show of the F-15 active. I was like, "Hey Kevin, check this out." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I worked on the software, something with the controls of that aircraft." So I was like, "Wow, new Kevin lore just dropped. He worked on the anime plane." But yeah, it was...
Oh yeah, from Pat Labor.
Yeah.
Okay, we promised we wouldn't talk about anime.
God damn it. But yeah, like that was the story of Kevin Greeley. So anyway, where I was going with this was I'm building a model of his Phantom. And,
awesome.
And this is even the first Phantom I built, right? Like in the year 2017, like you would never imagine I built a Phantom. But during the pandemic, I did build my first 72nd scale F4, and it was a Victorville, a George Air Force Base based Wild Weasel in the Euro 1 camouflage, which is one of my favorite schemes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Euro 1 Phantoms are a mood.
Euro 1 Phantoms are Euro 1 is a whole ass mood, dude.
Yeah, I like it more than SEA camo.
Yeah, no, SEA camo kind of... He was kind of tired of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad camo, it's just, you know, you see it all the time.
See it all the time.
Vietnam documentaries and stuff.
Yeah. Like, and it's crazy, because, like, you watched enough Vietnam documentaries, you start to recognize clips. Like, the one clip of, like, the F-105 getting chased by a MiG-17. Like, everyone's seen that clip. And then and the clip of like the Pipper going over the MiG.
And then you see their names pop up.
Yeah, the F-105. Yeah, exactly.
I used that in one of my videos actually.
Oh, did you? Good. It's like
it's classic.
When you've seen so much stock footage that you start to recognize it.
Yeah. Oh man. Did I ever tell you about my neighbor?
No. Which one?
He was a Skyraider pilot in the 50s and early 60s and then transitioned to Skyhawks before Vietnam.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. He was in between Korea and Vietnam. He got out before Vietnam happened, so he didn't see any combat officially. He talks about the South Vietnamese a lot, but I feel like there's a lot of things he still can't talk about. He's the guy I told you about who got buzzed by the Taiwanese F-86s during the Taiwanese crisis.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was flying at 50 feet or so, you know, just they were doing some low levels, you know, heading in towards, I think they were doing a pass over Taiwan or something, and a pair of Taiwanese F-86 Sabres passed them below them and, you know, pulled up and buzzed them just for shits and giggles.
Good lord.
And they were at 50 feet AG, or above sea level.
Right.
They were already really low. These fucking Sabres just like they buzzed them and, you know, pulled off and, you know, waggled their wings and, you know, passed them.
There was a point where Taiwan had some of like the best pilots.
Yeah,
like
your grandfather
there was
including.
Yeah, like there was the story the story that people tell those who know is the one about the YouTube pilot Mike Hua, who coincidentally is also known as the father of the FCK-1, because after he retired from the Air Force, he went to Purdue University in Indiana and studied aerospace engineering, and became like an aerospace engineer, and came back to Taiwan and worked for AIDC on the FCK-1 in the 80s. But this guy, he flew F-86s, and he also flew F-104s, and he also flew U-2s. And so you know how Taiwan is like the only other country besides the U.S. to operate the U-2, right?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna cover that sometime. The Black Hats.
Yeah. So this guy was on his 7th flight in a U-2, like his 7th flight in a U-2, right?
Yeah.
When he had an engine flame out, and he dead stick landed it at a regional airport in Colorado.
Bro.
Like the airplane is already notoriously hard to land. Right.
And it's also very secret at the time too.
It was very secret, and he landed it in on a tiny runway, like
oh my god,
like without a Corvette. You know,
that's fucking cool. Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, the U-2 has extremely long wings, and they have really fast cars drive alongside them as they're landing to, you know, give them radio calls to say, hey, your left wing is dipping or whatever. And apparently this guy did it without them.
Yeah, so the story goes, on August 3rd, 1959, during his 7th U-2 training flight, 13 miles above Utah, he lost power. Flying dead stick, he successfully located the Cortez Municipal Airport and landed his U-2, which was a notoriously difficult plane to land, even in the best of circumstances.
God.
Yeah, pretty wild.
That's incredible.
I guess there was a aviation history article about him.
Huh,
in
I'll
2020.
That.
Yeah, I'll link it to you so you can show your viewers. But yeah, no, this guy's a badass.
Yeah, sounds it. And Bob has a lot of my neighbor. Going back to my neighbor for a second, he's got a lot of anecdotal stories that he witnessed when he was in the Navy in the Pacific. Like he witnessed a midair happen. Where 2 Skyraiders clipped each other. The one was fine, it, you know, limped itself off. The other one ended up getting I think it had its stab ripped off, and it ended up in an inverted flat spin. And the dude was able to bail out because in a Skyraider, if you're in a spin vertically, there's the natural suction of the plane. You can't really get out of it normally, but because he was upside down, when he blew the canopy and took his risers off, he was able to just kind of fall out of it. This is before the Yankee escape system that the Skyraiders had later on in Vietnam, which was like a rocket-powered... It wasn't like a seat. It was like a rocket-powered system that would drag you out of the seat. So it was like...
Holy crap, what?
Have you heard of this? No, the Yankee escape system is fucking wild. It's like
sounds like a reverse, like, Fulton recovery.
Yeah, kind of. It pulls you out of the seat. It flies up in the air and grabs your risers and drags you out.
I'm looking at this thing now. Holy crap.
Yeah. That thing is friggin'... I'm excited for it in DCS, honestly. I want to see the animation of it.
Oh, so that's what this is. I've, like, this pole that goes behind, like, old-ass airplanes. Because I've definitely... Is this on F-86s?
I think later ones had them.
Because like, I've definitely assembled these on model kits. And, like, when you're building a model, it's like, stick part number A12 on part number A11. And, like, you're just like, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So you don't think about it, but, like, holy shit, I've absolutely assembled this before. It might have... Wow. That's rad.
Yeah. But this guy didn't have one, and he blew his canopy and just, like, popped his risers, and he was thrown out because he was, like, upside down. It just, like, naturally threw him out, which was fortunate. He also saw an FJ Fury have a cold cat shot and get run over by the Oriskany.
Holy crap.
And apparently the higher-ranking officer next to him just leaned over and said, "Those are the outs of naval aviation."
Damn. Yeah, that was, that sucks.
Yeah, he said he felt the crunch of the FJ going under.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Like, as far as, like, awful things that happen in military aviation that you don't really hear about, I think that kind of ranks up there with the, that B-24 turret that couldn't retract.
Oh, you mean the B-17 turret that couldn't retract?
No. B-24. So the B-24 had a retractable ball turret.
Right.
And so the B-17's ball turret, you know, like, you could...
It was fixed.
Right, but the B-24's was not. So if the landing gear was down on the B-24, the ball turret was actually below the ground. So that's why it was retractable. So, like, once it's in flight, you lower the ball turret. But ball turrets have gotten stuck, and the gunner wasn't able to get into the airplane. So they just, like, smeared gunners, like, on the runways at times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that happened on the B-17 a few times, too. Because what would happen is the hydraulics would get shut on the ball turret, and they'd be jammed at, like, a certain angle where they couldn't get to the hatch.
Yeah.
Because the hatch was on the pure ass end of it, so you'd have to rotate down completely and then, you know, pop the hatch and, crawl out. But
yeah, that really sucks.
Yeah. No, ball turret gunning was... Like, statistically, it was not any more dangerous than, the other positions.
Yeah, but at least, like, in a waist gun, you wouldn't get, like, fucking, like...
you wouldn't get smeared like a fucking bug, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, it sucks, because if you have any homies that are, like, under 5'5", like, 5'4" and below, like, think about how, like, if they were in the 8th Air Force, they would have that job.
My short kings.
Yeah.
And, dude, like, imagine being the crew knowing, like, you couldn't get them out. That's... dark.
Yeah, it blows, dude.
Yeah. I'm glad we're not there anymore. Like,
yeah,
80 years later, we don't have to worry about that shit necessarily.
It's crazy, because, like, I used to talk, like, when I used to teach at the Hiller Museum, all those those kids on the summer camp programs, we talk about, like, how World War, like, the air war over Europe was, like, industrialized murder in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, you just had tons of bombers initially unescorted, right? Going up against, like, hordes of fighters. And you're like, yeah, imagine you're like the waist gunner of a B-17, and you see this 109 coming at you, but you swing your gun over to, like, point at him, right? But your gun is, but he's, like, just out of your firing arc. Like, he can shoot at you, but you can't shoot at him because you can't swing the gun over. So you're, like, yelling into the intercom to the top turret guy, like, hey, there's a 109 at, like, 11:30 or, like, 11 o'clock, like, get him. But the top turret is already shooting at somebody else at, like, 2:30, so he's not shooting at the guy at 11:30 who's shooting at you, right? And you can see this 109, like, the guns over the cowling and through the hub, like, blinking as it's hurling 20 and 30 millimeter shells at you. You, like, if you've ever been in a B-17, you know that the actual skin of the airplane is, like, thin. It's like aluminum, right?
Oh, yeah. I used to volunteer in the movie Memphis Belle at the National Warplane Museum. It was the one used in the 91 film. And
oh, yeah. Nice.
I've been inside that fucking thing, and it's... I don't know, the thought of not being able to defend yourself in that thing is horrifying, because it's not going to protect you. People say it's the Flying Fortress because it had a lot of guns sticking out, but it had no armor whatsoever.
Right.
Fact that honestly, the fact that they were able to make it home so often is probably because it was just thin-ass aluminum the bullets would pass through.
Well, so, like, these German HE rounds and, like, their mine shells are just, like fucking tearing through this airplane, right? And, like, you know, you're just kind of, like, at the mercy of this German pilot at this point. You know, you feel like you're defenseless, and it's just you against him, and he's gonna win the war. And so I'd ask my kids, like, so would you rather be in that Messerschmitt, or would you rather be in this B-17? I'm like, I'd rather be in the Messerschmitt, obviously. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so, like, say, for example, all right, you're in the Messerschmitt, okay? Yep. So, like, it's you and, like, 20 other guys that the Luftwaffe could muster. And you're, like, below you is your family. Below you is, like, everyone you know in that city, you know? And there's, like, a swarm of hundreds of B-17s just, like, about to, like, kill your family and everything you love, you know? Like, everything you know is about to, like, fucking destroy you. Or be destroyed by these American bombers, right? So you're white knuckle gripping, you know, your controls, you know, the cockpit of the 109 has never felt tighter before. You're really hoping that armor plate behind your head is going to do its job, and like you're going head on into this swarm of B-17s, and like 10,000 feet above you is like 5 to 8 times the amount of fighters that you have, like Mustangs, P-47s, you know, like just like ready to bounce you.
Oh yeah.
And like you gotta like make as many passes through these bombers as you can, and these fighters, you know, they're gonna fuck you up. And you and your like other friends are just trying to save your families, knowing that you can't possibly stop every single bomber.
Yeah, you just gotta do as much damage as possible. Just
exactly.
Some of them.
So you know, you still want to be in the 109, you know, and the kids are like, I'd rather be in the P-51.
You know, we used to talk shit about the P-51 a lot.
I still do.
I don't know, man. Like, it was the only one that can get over there.
The P-47 could get over there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the P-51 was at altitude.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on. No. So, the P-51, in a very, very specific envelope, not for ground attack, not below 15,000 feet, and with half its fuel, was a better escort than the P-47.
Okay, but you know the P-47 could make it, right?
Oh yeah.
Like you know, like there's been like actual discourse in the past 5 years about how the Nuremberg raids were a disaster, and the Air Force made up the whole myth about the P-51 being the only airplane that could escort bombers over because they fucked up in not investing in drop tanks when they had them, right?
That's interesting. I know.
Have you heard about this?
I know it was more the drop tanks that made the difference. It's just a matter of like, I didn't know what the availability of the aircraft was, because I know the P-47s could do it, and they were damn good planes, and they would have been better in the Korean War than the P-51 especially, but the P-51 had its place, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure, you know, it was available.
Yeah,
it had its place in the same way that the P-40 had its place.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
And like that's an especially sad story, you know, especially like for you, coming from someone who's like kind of close to Buffalo, New York, right?
Oh,
where they were all made.
P-40. Yeah.
So like the P-40 was important because it was the only airplane that we could produce in numbers, right? But by being the MVPs and making P-40s throughout the whole war, Curtiss also wasn't able to innovate and make anything better than the P-40 because they had to hold the fort and build more of them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a rip. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Imagine a P-40 like super version with a Merlin engine in it.
I mean, have you seen
drop tanks?
The XP-40Q?
No, actually, was that a thing?
Yeah, look it up.
Fantasy real?
It's cursed, and it's about what you would have drawn as an 11-year-old.
Oh
like,
shit!
It's literally what you described.
Okay, that's pretty fucking cool. Actually, I think that would have been a pretty cool plane to see flying at air shows.
I think it raced at Reno after the war.
Dude, it's got the fucking NACA airfoils that the P-51 had. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is awesome. I love this.
Yeah, it just like wasn't. It didn't offer enough of an upgrade over the P-51 to make it worthwhile.
Oh man, damn.
Yeah,
Curtis
that's
got
it.
played.
Curtis did get played, and they also made a plane that looked like a Raiden.
That's cool.
It's called the XP60, which is really funny. So look up Curtis XP60, and all the different variants look completely different. Like the P60, P60A and the P60B, P60C, P60D are all like completely different airplanes.
Yeah, you're right.
The XP60E looks like a Japanese Raiden. It's like if Jiro Horikoshi was American.
Oh my god. I like this.
Yeah, it's rad.
Wow.
And the P60E looks like a Bearcat that went to the gym. Like it's like there's something about this airplane that's just like I don't know. Yeah. Like it starts off from looking like a P40 but buff. And then like I like XP60A, it's like the Chad like muscular, XP60 or like P40N or some shit. But like by the end of its development, like there's like no Warhawk in this thing.
You should really come up here to the Curtis Wright Museum. I hear it's really good.
I really want to. Like every time, so our mission computer is made by Curtis Wright, and every time I see it, I'm like, man, I remember when those guys made airplanes.
I didn't know they were still in operation.
They are, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, let's take a trip up here sometime.
Yeah, it was funny because I'm like in my first week at this company, like I was looking at what was called the LN-251, which is a inertial navigation system, INS.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that's so cool that Litton's still around making stuff. And Worldbook is Kevin Greeley's call sign, my mentor. Worldbook's like, wow, like so you are the real deal. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, because they're not still around. They were actually bought up by Northrop, and LN no longer stands for Litton. It stands for laser navigation. And I was like, oh.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
I was like, yeah, like I guess, the fact that the Jane's book I grew up with is like from the year 1988 or 87 or some shit.
Classic.
Wait, did you also have a childhood Jane's book?
I didn't have a Jane's book. I had the Jane's Fighters Anthology game, and I also had... You remember those little cards you would send away for in the mail?
Oh,
like
the aviation fact file.
Yes!
Did you ever get the consolidated books of those?
The
hardcover ones?
I've seen them in libraries, and I've always wanted them, and I've seen them for sale on eBay and shit, but I can never buy them.
abooks.com, that shit.
Oh man, I might have to get some of them because I collected a shit ton of those as a kid. I would spend hours opening those fucking things up and like reading through them and like looking at the pictures. Great references. I'm looking
up the concept aircraft one right now, dude. $5.52 free shipping.
Bullshit. Send me that link.
Okay.
I'll link it in the chat sheet for you guys.
This is the one. So, this is the one that has the Rockwell XF V12 on the cover.
That's pretty cool.
Here's like the modern military aircraft one with the Goshawk on the cover. You can find it. It looks like starts at $6.34. Like shit. You can buy these.
That's really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, like these are fantastic. But anyway, like so I grew up on the Jane's books, right? Like which would just give you like a paragraph blurb about like every airplane, maybe some pictures if it was exciting or new. And it's basically how I learned to read. Because like I would take it to school every day as a kid, and then like as like a first grader, or in like first or second grade, and I would ask my teacher the words that I didn't understand, and she would tell me how to pronounce them and what they meant. And then at one point, like I was like, Miss Clark, what's forward-looking infrared? And she was like, forward-looking infrared? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, so what is it? What does it do? And she was like, you're gonna have to ask your dad. So,
he would know. Your dad knows everything about this shit.
Yeah. So it's
That's cool.
He is cool. I talked to him recently. He's doing well. I think our relationship has gotten better since I moved out.
That's good. We can cut this out. Was it like rocky or?
No, it was just like we just never talked. Well, that's not true. Like, it's like the Asian engineer dad thing. If any of your viewers are also like Asian and second generation, I'm sure that they can relate.
I remember, like, you told me this one story about when you were a kid and you played Ace Combat 3 and you were building model kits and painting the canopies over. Because in the game they use this thing called Coffin, which is like a sealed canopy that uses cameras to view everything.
Yeah, dude, I was doing it to like some of the kits. Okay, it's his fault for giving me kits that were kind of like hard to get, or like fuck you. If you give like a teenage Jordan a Hasegawa Super Hornet, what the fuck do you think he's gonna do? Come on, dude.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like when I was a kid, I only got like Revell kits and the raised panel line reissues from the 80s, but that's fine because like as a kid that was fine.
Yeah.
I made my my 148 F14D kit and I was happy with it. Hi, Jeremy.
Oh,
also everybody say hi to my bird.
Hello, bird. That's the one that came with the VF31 markings, right?
Mine had I think it did have the F31 markings. I don't know at this point. It's been like 20 years.
It has like the black nose one, right? Like that's I'm pretty sure that was the picture on the box. Yeah.
Let me look this up.
VF31 148 F14D.
You know the kit I'm talking about though. It's like
the Revell monogram one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. F14D
Classic.
Super Tom. Okay, actually, shit.
It had good proportions.
It came with, so I guess it also had VF 124 markings.
Huh.
But like the box, you could build either.
Well, I think it's time for my bird to go to bed real quick. Sorry, boss. Jesus Christ, dude. Come here. Bed. He keeps flying for me when I try to grab him. Fucker. Oh. Oh my god. I can't catch him. He's too fast. Anyway, yeah, we were talking about model kits and your dad.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's still into them. I think he buys them more than he builds them now, but also same.
I mean, there are people who will collect kits and just never build them, just to have the kits.
I try not to be that person, but I've just been so busy that I've become that person.
I haven't built a model kit in over a year.
Dude, I last finished the OA4M, and that was like last June, and I took like 3 months on that thing. I started the OA4M before I started at TAC Air, and like I finished it like over the summer. And like I think I had it on my desk at work for a minute, and I took it home. And replaced it with like a diecast, because I was like, I don't want this to break.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the Hasegawa OA4M 70-second skill. I rescribed all the panel lines. I added I scratch built an entire cockpit.
Oh wow!
Added the rivets. Added detail to the chairs, to the bang seats to make them actually look like the Douglas ejection seats. It's pretty sweet.
That makes me feel really sad because I had an old A4M kit from like the 80s that had raised panel lines. I got it for like $5. I forget who even made it, but I took that and a shitty MiG-19 kit from like the 70s, and I painted them red and blue as like fucking dogfight stick representations.
Oh really? That's really funny.
Like, yeah, I'll take a picture of them. It's not a monetary hit, and they're not like rare kits or anything, so I don't feel bad about it.
Those Hasegawa 70-second jobs, they're floating around.
Yeah.
If you go to like hobby shows and stuff like that, like the vendors will have them for dirt cheap.
I've got a Hasegawa F4E I want to make as a Mobius 1 F4 though. I got to rescribe everything though, but it sounds like a pain in the ass.
Wait, the Hasegawa Mobius 1 Phantom doesn't have
no. Lines? Like I bought a really old fucking like F4E like for cheap, and I have the decals separately. They're like third-party decals.
Oh, okay, I see. The Chinese ones.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, it's fine. You don't have to worry about ripping them.
Yeah. Here's
if you rip them, it's like not the end of the world.
I'll link you to my OA4.
Oh, that's hot.
But that's like a kit from 1969 or something. Like
Holy shit, dude.
I like really updated it. Sorry, 1967.
Wow.
But
nice.
But yeah.
I didn't know they had OA4Ms in 1967.
They didn't, because when they kitted it in 1967, it was originally like just their A4, and then when they made the OA4M, it was they included 2 new fuselage halves, and they just like threw them in with the original A4 box.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
A lot of model companies are like that. Like the Hasegawa T38 isn't really a T38; it's an F5B, and they make you cut the lurks off of the wings, and that's it. But they don't tell you that the T38 and the F5B are actually very different airplanes.
Yeah, they really are.
Like the belly looks completely different between the two. The intakes are completely different. The nose is very different. So.
Okay.
Yeah, gotta be careful with those Hasegawa kits. And to this day, if you want to build a T38, I think Sword is the only one that makes one in 70 seconds.
Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, shit. Model kits. Fuck. Yeah. I'm looking at like a whole stack of them, knowing good and damn well I'm not gonna touch them in a really long time. And
we really should. Oh, sorry, sorry.
There's a pair of F5ATs on my desk that I like should have been working on, but I haven't.
What is it like resin?
No, I scratch built the parts that make them ATs.
Oh,
so just cool. Like out of sheet styrene. I mean, externally it's just the antennas and stuff. You know, so it's not it doesn't look all that different. And I'm doing a Block 1 AT, so I don't need to like do the IRST or anything silly like that. Cool little jet, and it's I think like wet like made me stop, which is it's too similar to what I do for my day job, and I'm like I don't want to come home from work and do my job again for fun.
Fair enough. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, next episode we are going to be talking about the origin and creation of the F5 series.
Oh, so the N156. I could talk about that for hours. Yeah.
I think me and Jordan are going to have a good talk about that, but for now, we're at about, where are we at? About an hour and 7 minutes in, so I think we'll call it here for now, but we're going to be doing this more regularly, I think. What do you think, Jordan?
I think so. I think that'll be fun. We should definitely, like, go into this with more plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Tonight was just a good way for us to reconnect and, catch up and all that fun stuff, so... as always, support Hellions art, support the channel, check out Jordan on Twitter. What's your Twitter again, Jordan?
I'm Taiwanese Prick on Twitter.
Taiwanese Prick. All right, well, perfect. So we'll see you next time, guys, and thanks for watching.
Have a great one.
You too.
All right.
Get that part out. You too? What the fuck?